Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm Sergej, and we have Sergej. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing fine as well. I've heard you moved.
Yeah, you might also be able to see that my background has changed.
Well, I know that you usually used to not have a background, not a window in your background when we recorded.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I don't know if there was a window in that room, nor would I know what the view from your place is because I've never been to that place. I've only been to the place you were before then.
That is fair. Yeah.
So technically your background gives me very little information.
Well, it's changed, right?
Yes, but
okay. Anyway,
but again, for all I know, just
I have
from what I
moved to
see,
Sweden.
Okay, yeah, but just from what I see, you might as well have just moved to the other side of the room. Okay, so you moved to Sweden.
Okay.
Why in the world did you move to Sweden?
Yes. Honestly, no clue. It just seemed like the best option.
Okay.
For reasons. Alright. But the reason for why I moved is not important. I have lived here now for about 2 weeks. So I have plenty of stuff to talk about, because moving to a different country the culture is always going to be different, somewhat.
You know what occurred to me when you first mentioned that you moved to Sweden? You know what's also different there, besides the culture?
What is?
The language!
Yeah, just slightly. It's still Germanic, alright?
Yes, but it's... I find North Germanic languages very hard to understand, right? Like Dutch, you can usually kind of go, like, oh yeah, they're just drunk Germans, right? But like, the Swedes? Like, that's just a completely different ballgame.
If I'm reading text, I'm usually able to understand it. Like, at least the general meaning of it.
Yes.
It's fine.
I'm assuming you're learning Swedish now.
I am.
That makes sense, because I would not want to move to a country and just not learn the language. I know some people do it, but like, I don't know how. I do technically understand how, but I feel like you, A, would want to learn a language if you move somewhere, and B, you would have ample opportunity to just pick up at least some of the basics just by, being there.
Yep. Okay.
I guess I don't have to ask them how your Japanese is doing, because you probably have better things to do.
Yeah. It's looking worse and worse with my Japanese. Since I'm not practicing it at all, I keep forgetting stuff.
Yeah, that's normal. To be fair, again, right? If you move to a different country, you should probably prioritize learning that language over whatever other language you were learning. So that does make perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Alright. Okay, first off, like, the thing that has been bugging me for the last 2 weeks. Did you know that it is basically impossible to get a hold of curry ketchup in the whole country of Sweden?
I did not, but my understanding is that curry ketchup is literally just ketchup with curry, so you might as well just get ketchup and curry.
I did, and it's not the same.
Okay.
The spices aren't balanced right.
Well, that's because you mixed it wrong!
I literally got ketchup and curry.
Yeah, but if it's balanced wrong, you clearly took too much of one and not enough of the other.
I have tried various proportions. There clearly is still something wrong with it. Anyway.
I just don't like curry, so
they only have like... Fair. They only have like 2 kinds of ketchup here. One is like the regular old tomato ketchup, like the Heinz or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the same kind, but without sugar. Those are the only two kinds of ketchup you can get here.
I'm not sure if I've ever seen ketchup without sugar. I was honestly kind of shocked when I saw how much sugar there was in ketchup, but I'm not sure if I've ever explicitly seen one without. But then again, I don't pay that much attention to ketchup because I probably only eat ketchup like twice a year or something. I don't know what the big deal is.
That is fair. I mean, I am a fan of like Hela curry ketchup. That's like pretty popular in Germany. And you can get it pretty much everywhere. Not a thing here. You only get two kinds of ketchup. But mayonnaise, on the other hand, you get like a big assortment of different flavors and mixtures.
Mayonnaise is different flavors?
Including, but not limited to, curry mayonnaise. I kid you not.
I love that. That's like the perfect irony. It seems like I mean, the only two flavors of mayonnaise that I'm like constantly aware of is just like light and normal. And I find it interesting that they have like a light version of mayonnaise, because mayonnaise is basically just fat, right? Like, what you gotta do? Put more eggs in it? Like,
yep.
But anyways, yeah.
So that's been a thing. And now to like the more basic one, the more basic comparisons between the countries, like stores being open every day of the week.
Blasphemy!
Yeah, I know.
Like, sure, the Americans, right? Like, they don't have a work-life balance, but like Sweden? I mean, I guess you could also just hire more people so that no one has to work all 7 days, but
that is true. And especially, like, the store I'm living next to, like, literally next to, it's, I don't think it's even 100 meters
I thought you were
from my front door to...
I thought you were gonna say, it's that building back there!
Not quite. I would have to turn the camera a bit more, but yeah, it's... It's open from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day.
I don't know when stores
Quite
open
nice.
around here, but they usually close at 10. So...
Yeah. It's like 8 to 10 or 8 to 9, depending on like which store you...
Yeah, which store, and I think some of them also
Germany.
depends on time of year. I think some stores actually are open longer in summer.
Oh, that... I didn't know. That might be. Yeah.
I seem to recall at least one store having like an extra half hour or even hour in summer. Because it's also like light out longer and people are around longer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And another, while we are on the topic of stores here, they don't really use shopping carts here. Instead, they got like bigger shopping baskets that have wheels on them and like a longer handle.
It sounds like they just have a different type of shopping cart.
Because they have both.
Oh.
Like they have the regular shopping carts, but nobody uses them.
I mean, that's their problem, right? But like...
and yeah, like the shopping baskets are like nicer to use.
Okay, I mean, fair enough, right? If it works. I just like how you were like, we'll use baskets with wheels. And I'm like, that sounds like a shopping cart. I mean, it's probably smaller, I get it, but like...
It is smaller, lighter, and it's actually like, you know, with shopping carts, the bottom of the shopping cart is like still very high up. So you don't have to... Yeah. No, like the shopping basket sits on the floor.
That seems less comfortable, though. Oh, by the way, do you want to know what I found out about another country-by-country comparison regarding shopping carts? In America, shopping carts tend to have locked back wheels. I think it was back wheels. So, they don't rotate. I mean, they still turn, of course. Like, they don't... like, you can't...
Yeah.
you can't, like, only the front ones actually, like, turn. So that's why American shopping carts are a pain in the ass to steer, whereas German shopping carts, where all four wheels usually turn all the way around, are actually much easier to steer.
Ah. Actually, now that I think about it, the shopping baskets also have the back wheels locked to one position.
I mean, if they're smaller, it might not be as big of a deal, but obviously...
But you're dragging them behind you, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Not like with shopping carts, where it's usually in front of you.
Yeah, and also with a shopping cart, you don't necessarily just... So in America, I guess you can, if you want to go somewhere, you like have to actually make a turn, where as in Germany, you can literally just drag it sideways, and the wheels will just turn accordingly.
Yep.
And so it's just, they're much more flexible that way, but again, right, if the bags are smaller, it's probably less of an issue, and like if you really need to get them somewhere, you might just be able to lift them over or something. With like a regular shopping cart, you wouldn't want to like try to lift the thing. I mean, when it's empty, it's probably not a big deal, but like as soon as stuff is in there...
Yeah, not that nice. And more on the topic of shopping. You know what, like, the biggest mind blow was when I first got into a store here? The cash registers.
Okay.
Or rather, the pickup area after your items are scanned and you're paid. The pickup area is wider than in Germany and has a bar in the middle. And the cashier controls which side your items land on. So while you're picking your stuff up, the items from the next person aren't mixed in with yours. They land on the other side.
I mean, the way I am used to doing it is just you pick them up as they're being scanned, and so there really isn't... And you load up your card and then you pay and then the next person starts. So there wouldn't be any overlap in the way I've experienced supermarkets. But yeah, that is...
still gives you more time to do.
Yeah, I do definitely recognize that sometimes it feels like it's very hectic when you're trying to like fill up your cart because they scan those items fast. And sometimes I feel like I can't actually like load up my shopping cart as fast, and sometimes you have items where it's like you can't just throw them in there, you have to like be a bit careful about them. Like, you know, like yogurt, pudding, sort of stuff. It's like, oh yeah. You can't just toss in the cart. You're gonna make a mess. It seems like a very minor difference, but yeah, no, that is interesting, I guess.
It's huge. And only mildly related to shopping this time. You know how they say that Swedes, or probably like pretty much everywhere outside of Germany, they use credit cards more?
I mean, yes. It's literally everyone but Germany. Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know about Sweden, but in a lot of European countries, I think it's debit cards, right? Not credit cards.
Yes. Yeah, usually it's debit cards in Europe. But yeah, it's like basically impossible. Actually, not basically. I think it's actually impossible to pay for gas without a credit card here.
Okay. So is that credit or debit card, or is it literally just a credit card?
I am not entirely sure, but I think it's only credit card.
Because I don't have one, right? So that's, I mean, not that I'm planning to come, but that would be a problem. I like to go to a gas station where I can pay cash, but also the nearest gas station to where I live, although it's not a big difference between that and the second nearest, but that one doesn't have an attendant, so you have to pay with a card. But I think they take debit cards, and they take like their own cards, like the ones you can like charge up and then use.
Yeah.
I don't know if they take regular credit cards, but they're definitely interesting. I think they also, I don't know if it was Sweden, but definitely one of the Scandinavian, well, actually. Wait, what currency do you use over there? Just like a stupid question, but...
A Swedish krona.
Yeah, then it wasn't those. Because I think one of the countries in the north got rid of like the copper coins, but you don't use the euro over there, so that I mean you might have still had a variety of copper coins, but not the exact same thing. I think there might have been Denmark. Then I think those guys used the euro because Norway isn't even in the EU.
Denmark uses Danish kronas.
Maybe it was Finland. I don't know. I mean, I thought it was one of the countries up north.
Yeah. It might be. I don't know.
And don't tell me they use Finnish kroner because I'm pretty sure they don't. I don't know if they do.
I have no clue.
What is the
I only know
currency?
Danes use Danish krona because we drove through Denmark on the way to Sweden. Okay. Quickly check my notes.
Yes, so Finland does use the euro. I expected that because, I mean, I expected it, and I definitely didn't expect them to use a currency called the kroner because historically they weren't. I mean, I guess they sort of were part of Sweden for a while there, but they also were part of Russia for a while, and like they're not really Scandinavian, so, and they're definitely not North Germanic because they speak a Finnic language, that being Finnish. So like calling the currency kroner would be odd, although I guess it could have still been a lean from when they were related to Sweden, so it's not entirely out there, but.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, the correct term, if you want to talk about the Scandinavian countries and Finland, is Finno-Scandia, just in case you ever needed to know that.
Okay. I will try to remember that. That seems useful.
I mean, no one will know what you're talking about because it's not like a very commonly used term, but that is technically the term.
All right. Okay, so another thing that I have learned the concept of before coming here, but not in relation to Sweden, is that like, you know how in Germany when you close a door, it automatically locks it, like front doors.
Not necessarily, but most places do, yes.
But like most of them, yeah, like 99%. Yeah, that is also not a thing here.
Yeah, I mean,
like you usually have to lock them yourself with a key. I much prefer that.
I prefer the German way because then you don't have to unlock your door. You don't have to lock your door every time you come home. You immediately just lock the door. And then also, like, can you buzz people in? Because normally when you lock a door with a key, you can't buzz them in the way that their buzzer system is set up in Germany.
Oh, I have no idea.
Right, because that's also like...
The doors I have used don't have a buzzer.
Yeah, because if...
I assume buzzer doors are different.
Because that's the thing, right? Like, they unlock only, like, the part that you could also unlock with a handle. But if you actually lock the door, you can't then use the doorbell to, like... Person rings the doorbell, you hit the buzzer, like, it still doesn't fully unlock, so...
But on the inside, you don't use a key. You have, like, this... like on bathroom doors, this little thing you turn.
Yeah, I guess that's fine. Although, there actually it is more secure to lock it with a key, because otherwise, if there's like a window in the door, you could break through that, and then just unlock it that way, which you can't do if it takes a key. Although that only works if the door is actually properly locked, which, of course, if it doesn't lock, then you have the same thing in Germany, where you can bash in the window and then just press down the handle, because most of the time, at least if people are home, they wouldn't lock their door fully. So, kind of goes both ways. But I know our neighbors, like, I think like 2 houses up the street, they actually also have a front door that doesn't lock. But I think they still...
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I still think that they actually need a key, though. I don't think they have like a terminal on the inside. But so they need to like actually like unlock and relock with a key every time they...
That seems like a hassle.
Right? That's why I thought that was bad. But when you said like they have like the bathroom type thing, I guess it's fine. But
yeah,
I find the German system fine too. The only thing that you have to remember is that if you go outside, you take your key with you, so you don't lock yourself out.
Yes.
That's like the only thing. Where like that really is a downside, I would say.
I much prefer not being locked out if I accidentally forget my key.
I've never once locked myself out, but okay.
I did a couple of times in like the span of my life.
Okay, I was once locked out, but not because I forgot my key. I once accidentally broke off my key in the lock. But also, my mother was home, so I just rang the doorbell, and that was fine. But and also, I got the key fragment out of the keyway again, so it wasn't a problem. We just had to like replace one key. As a matter of fact, we might not have even gotten a replacement because we had so many keys. Anyways, but yeah, so that it was unfortunate, but that wasn't because I forgot the key, and that could have happened anywhere in the world.
That is, yeah.
Actually, I think that could have happened more likely in the US because I think the keys are thinner. I think I heard something about that. Or was it down around? No, I think it was the US keys were thinner. There was like something that was like mentioned on the side, I think, once in like a lockpicking lawyer video. But yeah. Because then you also need other lockpicks if you want to pick them. So they actually like fit in there.
Yeah. Another thing about locks here is that you don't fully turn them to lock or unlock stuff. You turn them 90 degrees, and that's all.
Well, yeah. I mean, you said like a bathroom stall, right? Those are also 90 degrees. I figured if they have like a thing on it that it would be 90 degrees, because that would be also annoying to like... It feels...
No, like even the keys. Like, the keys. I mean, you put them in 90 degrees.
Yes, because
either way,
if you have the thing on the other side, it has to turn the same amount, right? So it makes sense that it would also only be quarter rotation. That does make sense.
I guess.
I mean, I guess the advantage is that if you have to do multiple rotations, like you do in most stores in Germany, I think if you pick it, you might have to like actually repick it every rotation. I don't know exactly though if that's true.
Depends on how quick you are, I guess.
I genuinely don't know because I feel like most of the time when you see locks being picked, those are also just like the 90-degree ones. But yeah, I don't know exactly how that would work. But also, realistically, lockpicking is not a real threat. Right? If the lock can actually be like shimmied open or like bump keyed or something, that maybe. But like actually like single pin picking is not the main way that people get around doors. Also, it's basically irrelevant if you have ground level windows. Because most people that would want to get into your house don't care about non-destructive entry. So, yeah.
Yeah. The last thing on my list is that this town I'm in, and from what I've seen by driving through Sweden, like towns in general here are like 100 times more walkable than in Germany.
Which is funny because it's obviously well known that German towns are much more walkable than American ones.
Yes.
And I find it funny because sometimes when you hear about like Americans that came to Germany or something, it's like, oh yeah, like everything is so walkable. And it's like, well, I always have to think like, well, not compared to the Netherlands, but like, I guess Sweden is the same way where it's like, yeah, no, Germany is actually, by European standards, fairly bad at it.
Yeah. It is quite impressive. Yeah, that's it so far on my list. I have probably forgotten stuff that I have experienced in the last 2 weeks.
So, one thing that I just noticed as well, I have my blinds on so I can't 100% tell, but I'm pretty sure you probably had light out longer because you're further north. So, you're going to have longer days in summer and shorter days in winter compared to Germany. It's probably not going to be that extreme because north-south's not that much of a...
Sunrise is at like 3 a.m. here right now.
Okay, I know that I've the last couple of days I've been going to bed at around like 4:30. And it's usually just about starting to get brighter again at 4:30. So, and we're in the same time zone. I don't know. It also depends a little bit also on if you're like straight north, if you're due north, or if you're like slightly further west or east, because obviously within the time zone, from the eastern end to the western end, there's like almost a 1 hour difference in sunrise as well. But I think Sweden is fairly straight up north over Germany, so I feel like it almost doesn't matter where in Sweden you are. You're fairly straight north from where you used to be Germany, maybe slightly further east.
Yeah, I'm quite a bit further east.
And the sun rises
than you are.
in the east, which means actually no, that doesn't. How do time zones work? So if you were in a time zone further east, it would now be an hour earlier, meaning the sun rises later in the east, I think, actually. I believe that's how it works. I believe east, the sun rises later. So that would actually... But yeah, I think in this case, it is genuinely more so... You're definitely more north than you are east, so it's just less about where within the time zone you are and more about the seasonal variances that are more pronounced the closer you get to the poles. Or the further you get from the equator. That's kind of... You can figure that out.
1 second. Let me look up the longitude.
This is riveting content.
Yes. So you're at about 7.98 degrees east. I am at 12.8, 12.9 degrees east.
That is quite a couple of degrees.
Yeah. What a bit.
But again, I think, based on how the time zones work, no, it's later in the day, right, in the east. Right, yeah, no, it's 6 hours earlier on the east coast.
Where is it?
So, right now it's an hour later in the east, and it is, like, if you go one time zone east, it's 1 hour later.
Yes.
Which means that they set it later because the sunrises are earlier, right? Like, that's how that works.
Yes.
Or rather, the noon is earlier, but then obviously the sunrise and the sunset are...
I mean, the land of the rising sun is to the east, so yeah.
Well, yes, but also the sunrise is everywhere.
Details.
I mean, I guess it's called that because the sunrise in the east, and maybe the Chinese called them that or something, I don't know, but because they're immediately to the west. Well, as is Russia, actually. But... and to the north, because I think one of those islands that looks like it's part of Japan, and historically has been part of Japan, is actually controlled by Russia. Because Russia like taking land that isn't theirs. I don't know what the historical circumstances about that particular piece of land were. For all I know, that was perfectly kosher. It might have been one of those World War II things where, Japan had to seize some land because they lost the World War, and that's just what happens. But, yeah, anyways, there's I think one of those islands that looks like it would be part of Japan is actually part of Russia. Not the point. The point is that we're moving on to our facts of the week, I believe, because you said you didn't have anything more to talk about, and I don't really have any specific questions that I can think of immediately.
That is correct.
So, what is your fact of the week?
First, a preface. I have been sustaining myself in a large part through Subway bread, because one of the roommates here works at Subway, and they often get to bring stuff home that wasn't made perfect in the store.
So what you're saying is
including
you've been eating cake.
Basically, yes.
Because
because
oh, is that your fact? Yeah, go ahead.
That is my fact. Yes. The Irish court ruled that Subway sandwiches are too sugary to meet the legal definition of bread. They are classified. I forgot what they classified it, and I cannot find it.
So the way I heard it, somewhere in Europe it was ruled that it's cake, that the Subway bread is literally cake. I don't know if that was this particular case, or if that has also maybe been misstated because people like to exaggerate those sort of things. But that is how I had heard it.
So yeah, like in Ireland, bread's maximum sugar content maybe no more than 2%. Compared to the total weight of the flour in the dough. And Subway sandwiches contain roughly 10%, which is 5 times higher.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like America for you, though, right? Like, Subway is an American brand, and I have heard that generally American bread tends to contain much more sugar than European bread. I mean, it's no wonder that Americans have an obesity problem, right? Where it's like, their cities aren't walkable, and their food contains, well, probably not literally sugar, because it's always like concentrated corn syrup or some shit like that, but like, their food contains more sugar, whether it's like the actual sugar you're thinking of, or corn syrup or whatever, like, but it contains more sugar, and the cities are less walkable. And it makes sense that they also
the article actually doesn't say what they classified as.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
I might have read it in one of the other news articles that I do not have open anymore.
They might have also just not classified it specifically, although I guess it must have some classification. But it might just be like, oh, it's I was gonna say bakery product. There's a better term for that. But like, yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, this is
pastry. Yeah,
basically, yeah. So it's like, yeah. I mean, they probably have to classify it somehow because they have to tax it, and that probably depends a little bit on the product category as well. But when in doubt, it could probably just be miscellaneous foodstuffs or something.
Yeah.
Well, while reverse image searching an image for an album cover for a song of the week, something had occurred to me, and that is, you know what site I tend to use for reverse image searching?
Google, I assume?
No. I thought you knew this. I tend to use tineye.com.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what did I think when I was going to tineye.com?
I don't know.
So, on an entirely unrelated note, recently I've been reading a novel called The Final Empire. I believe on the cover it says Mistborn, The Final Empire.
Oh.
And and so it's a novel by Brandon Sanderson. And there's a magic system that has to do with consuming metals to produce magical effects. The point is, people that burn tin can enhance their senses and are referred to as tin eyes. So now I'm using this first and I'm like, it can't be a coincidence. And so I did some research. First of all, the first Mistborn novel, the one I had read, came out in 2006.
Yep.
The website Tin Eye first started operation in 2008, 2 years later. Now, I found no mention of it being a Sanderson reference until I looked through the blog on the Tin Eye's website, and they talked about where the name comes from. And they said they were inspired by robots. And apparently, back in 2000, they were brainstorming cool names for their image recognition technology, and robots came to mind. And then they said something like, yes, futuristic robots trump our human abilities in so many ways. Their tin arms are stronger, their tin brains are faster, and their tin eyes are keener. So apparently, they came up with it in 2000, but only started using it in 2008, which means that Sanderson and ID Incorporated would have probably independently come up with those terms. It does also mention briefly at the end of the article, for those of you wondering if we were inspired by Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy, the story is awesome and the tin eyes in it are neat, but no, Mistborn was not even written when we picked our name.
That is pretty cool.
Supposedly, This is a coincidence. I don't have any evidence to the contrary, but the timing would allow for it to not be a coincidence. Because, well, they say they came up with it in 2000, they only started using it in 2008, so... I also don't know why they were working on their product for like 8 years before it became public, but I don't know, maybe that's... It looked like they were a business. I don't know how they made money before then, but they probably have other things.
I mean, they probably others. Yeah, they probably have other services.
The only products of theirs that I've found right now are all about image recognition, and also their official website apparently is just tineye.com. As a matter of fact, there is an ideainc.com, I think, just redirects to tineye.com.
Maybe they have a Wikipedia page. I mean, it doesn't really matter right now, but that is a cool thing. I would not have picked it up for probably a long time to come.
The only Wikipedia page of theirs that I could find was the German one, and that only mentioned their 3 products, all of which were about image recognition. Because when you go to the TinEye Wikipedia article, it mentions the Idea Inc., and it doesn't have a link, though. And then I was like, okay, right? They are from Ontario, but they have a French name. So I was like, okay, French Wikipedia, right? French version of the TinEye site, same thing, right? It mentions the company, no link. I didn't try to type in the company name, although I figured it would probably be linked, which maybe was a bit presumptuous of me. Then I was like, okay, you know what? Sometimes German Wikipedia is pretty good. Sometimes I usually using Wikipedia because it tends to be the most exhaustive, but sometimes German Wikipedia is good too. And so I go to the language selector, pick German, and it automatically redirects to the Idea Inc. page, because in German Wikipedia, TinEye doesn't have a page. But Idea Inc. does, and TinEye is just one of the sections on there, although it's just 2 sentences. But yeah, that's...
interesting.
All I know about those guys. Let's see. Wiki... ID... Fucking hell, where's my... There. ID... Inc. Yeah, it just suggests TinEye. And then ID has disambiguation page. It may refer to Emil ID Inc., which doesn't have an article. Okay, they red links. Idée fixe, idée reçue, idée stupide, les idées de ma maison. See also idea. I don't know. Ides, Ideen, idée fixe. Yeah. Anyways, my favorite of the week was just about the TinEye coincidence, which is kind of disappointing. Yep. I was really hoping that I was going to find out that they were actually inspired by Sanderson, and that I thought it would have been a cooler fact. I was like, oh yeah, by the way, Ben Sanderson inspired the name of this cool website that I like to use. But
yep.
Alas, no. Also, bonus fact: I finished the Final Empire a couple days ago, so I've read that book now.
Like the first book. Yep.
Yes.
It totally works like a standalone, right?
Yes, and it also works without the epilogue, but that's besides the point. I felt like the last couple sentences of the last chapter were more impactful as an ending as the ending of the epilogue, but also I get why the epilogue still ties up a lot of the stuff. I think it works as a standalone with the epilogue. It probably wouldn't work without the epilogue because it does leave a lot of stuff hanging. Because it kind of ends sort of in a very uncertain point, and then it establishes how the new status quo looks in the epilogue. So without the epilogue, it wouldn't work as a standalone, but I think the ending is more impactful, and because it leaves more stuff hanging, it would make you more wanting for the second book, but I'm going to start reading that one very soon. I just want to mention that because I know you've read it too, so...
Yes.
But this is not the Trash Cat TV book club, although we should do that at some point, but...
we totally should.
But yeah, this is just a thing that I mentioned. Which I guess brings us to our halftime show, which is, as per usual, Squirtle.
Yeah.
It's Wordle, but square. be there or be, well, anyways. Our starting words, okay, generally are laser, I believe. And
think so.
tonic. We already got one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got more negative information than usual, I think.
Yeah.
So we've had it before that we would have like 4 letters for a row or column. In this case, we have at best 2.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact,
Which is unusual.
The first 2 rows and columns have 2 each. But I guess it means that we probably just have to come up with a good guess rather than just, solving it.
Yeah. I kind of feel like the top left square has an S in it.
I can see why you would think that. I mean, ST is a very common letter combination, plus there are 2 S's pointing at it.
Yeah.
I might want to try starting with an L, because S something L would also work. It doesn't have to be the case, but that could be useful. And we don't have anything in the first row that we could test for. I maybe like testing for U just generally. And if we are testing for specific positions, I guess the O and the E are pointing in there somewhere, but that might not necessarily. So, any ideas? I have a word that has all the letters that I mentioned, but A, it has one letter that we can't have, and B, I was gonna say louse, where, it tests the L here like I wanted, it tests the O here, and there for that matter. It tests the U, but then the E is in the wrong spot, and also neither of those can have an S.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't think my OU idea works, but again, like getting all of these ones I said in there would have been a bit optimistic, because unless no, that doesn't. That's not how that works. I was gonna say if we can have something ending in UE, but then the E is in the wrong spot again, anyways. And no S is rough too.
No N's and no S's. That is rather challenging. Is it okay if the L is in the word but not at the start?
I mean, theoretically, that could be the case, but obviously the reason why I wanted an L was because we have one in the first column somewhere. It would still point at that if it... It is the most valuable if it's in the first position, but again, I gave you a couple constraints and said we can't possibly meet all of them, so what do you have?
Yeah. Nothing yet. But it is much easier if I'm not constricted by the L being in the first spot. About mold? No, Wait. Oh. Yeah, someone thought MOULD is a thing.
I think
Never
it's a
mind.
name, but I don't think it's a... I mean, you know what? Let's try this. Okay, never mind.
It is a thing.
I'm
I
pretty
have
sure...
no clue what it is.
I'm pretty sure mold as in... You know, the... What is it, a fungus or whatever? Like, I think that one is spelled without a U, although I'm not 100% sure, to be fair.
I think so too, yeah.
Okay, we have established there is a U in the grid, just not where we're looking for it. The O is not in the position where it would have been most convenient. There is no L here, which, I mean, that is in and of itself useful information. SL is possible, though, so it could end in an L, which is very likely, or SL, which is also not exactly unlikely either. What else do we have? D in the last column is not that useful. Wait, M and U, that's also not that much. N and O there, M and O there. We still have no more than 2 positive hints for any given row or column.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess technically we have 3 positive hints for some of them, but with repeat letters. So that's still only 2 letters per row or column.
Are there any 5-letter words that end with L?
I'm assuming there are tons, but I don't know. Naval. Both as in belly button, which I believe is spelled Navel, as well as pertaining to the Navy, which is Naval. I was gonna say stable, but that's too long. Is it stay? Oh, yeah, it's 6. Able. Wait, Able is LE. Not EL. Well, Able the name, but that's not what we're looking for. Actually, Sable might be LE too, but it doesn't matter. Is cable in American English LE or EL?
I think it's LE in both.
Well, it's almost certainly LE in British English. But the problem is sometimes, especially the REs become ERs most of the time in American English, and I think something similar happens for LE and EL sometimes. But then, like, British English is almost always definitely RE is like very common in we said before, but it's like saber with the British spelling or whatever, but it's sub, like it's just like the French spelling, but then because they say it as if it was ER, even if it is RE, the Americans then turn it around.
Another thing I think is curious is that the first column basically only has O's and U's for vowels.
No A or E, and we have no I's in the entire grid. That's interesting. I was gonna say it's stool, but it can't be stool because there can't be a T in there. But something like that, maybe.
And with the restrictions we have on the L, it can only be in the second or last spot.
Yes, which is why I said stool, right? Because it has O's and it ends in an L. The problem is the T doesn't work. Well, school is SCH, so that's the one that someone trips me up. School doesn't C in it, I'm pretty sure.
Spool.
What?
Spool with a P.
Spool. Yeah, that would work. Right, that's what I was saying, right? Ending in an L is very plausible, but also starting with SL, like in sly, slander, slippery, or like there's both second position L
Yeah.
and final position L are still very plausible. Although, arguably, final position feels more likely without A's and E's and I's. Where all the ones I said, right, like, yeah, slap, slip. I can see a slope. But slope still has an E in it, right? So,
Yeah.
is it just slop? Is it a... sloppy, I guess, would be one that does... I mean, it's 6 letters, but just as a general matter, does not contain A's, E's, or I's, and does have SL in it. But it feels like most of them do. So I feel like final L, given the vowel restriction, seems more likely than second position L. We said spool. It's also the only one that I can come up with right now. But that's not... I don't think it's immediately that helpful. I mean, if you want, I can enter it, but...
Yeah. No. Yep.
I mean, I guess it is helpful in as far as if we want to try something for the row, we can now try to figure out a word that starts with O. Organ. I mean, it's probably not that useful as a guess, although we do still need to find where that A goes. In the bottom 3x3, there's an A. It's a thing that you like pointing out where we only have negative information on A's, so it's not in the first or second row or column.
Yeah.
So I guess organ isn't even that terrible in that sense.
I mean, we know the row and column both need an E. And organ doesn't have one.
Yeah, it occurred to me that it's not a great guess, but I don't think there's anything speaking against it, and also it does give us possibly the A. Final row or like final column could have an N. Final row could have an N. R's are not restricted. The G we haven't even tried yet. It's not optimal, but it would work. I mean, if I could put Oregon, I would put Oregon, but that's a bit longer. Let's see.
I mean, I would have also liked to put orange there, but it doesn't work either.
It's literally just Oregon plus E. Different order, but like in terms of like anagrams. I mean, ore is a word, as in like a metal ore, or like, I mean, it could also be a gemstone ore, I guess. So can you do something with that?
I got order for you. Don't like the double R. Also,
especially the last one, the second R.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the last row does need an R, so it wouldn't necessarily be the exact word probably for the second to last row, but it could still, the column still technically hit an R there, so it's not terrible.
Yeah.
But, it does have the E where you wanted it, right at that intersection. I don't know if you specifically said that, but it would make sense. The D we have tested before. Where did we test D? Oh yeah, right there. That means it can't be in the third row, which... Okay, so that is actually also not uninteresting because there can't be a D there. Or there.
Wait, what? Oh, yeah.
So that is the one thing where order, the D doesn't work for either row or column. The R doesn't work for the row, which was what we were primarily going for. So
Yeah.
in that sense, organ does have a bit of a lead, I think, on order, but I was going to say ogres, but it doesn't really have letters in the positions where I would like to have them.
Mm.
By which I mean mostly the E, I guess. Well, actually, I guess if before we go ogres, might as well go opera, which does have an A in it.
Yeah.
And does have the exact same ER position as ogre. Although you might be able to spell ogre RE, which I think is the British spelling, so that would actually maybe be better from an E standpoint. But the opera would be an option. You wanted an E and you wanted maybe an... Oh, no,
Yeah, let's go for opera. Seems like a good guess.
Well, I mean, it seems like the E might have been where we would have rather had it, but the P was a surprise hit. It's E there feels more and more likely by the second. It could still technically be in the last position, but then also this one needs an E either there, or in last, so seeming more and more likely by the second. This needs an R, which I guess could go there, which is another intersection of hints, not necessarily that likely, but it can't be in first, the R, that is. Could still be in the other two spots, but ER is also a very common combination, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, right, the spool doesn't work anymore because the O isn't actually there, which is kind of the main thing we're testing. But this one does actually need an O, which I guess goes there.
Oh, we know where at least one A goes. Right where you're hovering over.
Right, because it can't go in any of the other columns and it has to have one in that row.
No, it's definite.
Right, yeah, sorry, I marked it wrong, yeah.
Yeah.
So... I mean, that makes me less keen on putting the L there.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it is something like Lear, where it does have the ER in it. I think Leary does work as a possible word. So, or Lears might work as well.
Yeah.
So, it could still technically be the case, but
wait,
well, I guess
we have a...
This one could
we
be
have
tempo.
to have a D in that word.
We do have to have a D in that word, yeah. Leard? Laird. Isn't Laird the Scottish version of Lord? I don't know which way around that is with the vowels, though.
I have no clue.
You know what? I'm gonna try that because I think it's actually, if that does work, I think it's a good guess letter-wise. But it's a terrible word.
Yep.
Because it's also wrong. Okay, that's why I wanted to test it, because now at least we know. Okay. I did put an O there, not because it has to be there.
Wait. Yeah, the O. We know it needs to be an O in that spot. Second column.
Second column needs an O either there or there.
No, that's the fourth column.
Oh, fourth
Second column.
This one needs to be an O. But so it needs to be an O. Well, then this R is probably wrong, or this L is wrong. Well, the R has to be somewhere. Wait, the R has to be somewhere. I mean, it could literally be roads or some. Well, it can't be roads. It could be. Well, it can't be doors. Door R wouldn't work, right? I mean, it must be like some like horde or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I don't think it starts with a D, and the R
Is
literally has to be
Lord
there.
a thing?
So what do you say?
Is Lord,
With an L?
Loard, a thing?
No.
It is either.
So the R has to be there because it can't be the last spot, and now that we've locked the O and the A in, it has to be there. So the D could either be in the beginning, which I don't think it is, or in the end. So this does more or less lock in that word. And since L doesn't work, that actually guarantees basically that the L is there. And this O is actually also guaranteed because it's not going to be OOARD. So this, if the S is correct, the L and the O are just contextually guaranteed, but not actually like rules-wise guaranteed. But just like the way words work, I think they are basically locked in. Obviously, my mind immediately goes to like slope or something, but is it slosh? Like, you know, when like a liquid is in a container and you like it sloshes around when you move it. Well, not like
I have a thought of sludge with a CH like multiple times, but I never thought of using an S instead.
Because I said horde earlier, and the main problem why I hadn't entered it is because I didn't like words ending in H, right? It's not that common. But slosh, I think, works, and also SP is definitely something that does work as a letter combination, which is the other thing, right? Where in the second to last and in the fourth row, which I guess is spread. Well, double D would be awkward, though. Spear? But that would have EA, not AE. Or double E? Spear? No, EA. Okay, so we need... I mean, this E is by no means guaranteed, but, I mean, spore, well, it can't be a spore. Spare, I guess, but that will be awkward. And it can't have an A. Spire. Like, it could be...
No eyes.
It could be RE. It could be RE, but... Oh wait, this can't be an R. So this actually has to be an R. Well, actually, I say has. Technically, it doesn't have to be because this could be the R. Not that it realistically would be, but... So this... One of those two has to be an E. Maybe both. Probably both. Because
probably both, yeah. Spree.
Because spread is awkward, right? With double D at the end. But ED works better, I think.
Also, I don't think spread is a thing with just
an E. It's EA, right? Spread. SPREAD.
Yep.
That's a good call. Sometimes I get so hung up in like what sounds right that I forget kind of how to spell things. Even more so than usual.
Yeah.
I'm thinking M there because this column needs an M, and it's not going to be MRA probably. So that goes there. We have O, we have E, we have R, we have D, we have that O. Well, this one has all of the letters that it needs, I think. Well, this row does actually need an M though.
It does, yeah.
MRA though, like that. Mra, like that doesn't sound right.
Probably two syllable. Syllables is the letter grouping, right?
Yeah, but then Ra would have to be a syllable, which still seems... Ra as a final syllable for a word still seems a little odd. it could be. I mean, I guess camera also ends in ra, but it feels weird.
Yeah.
I was thinking it could just be one of those two that's also an M, right? Like Homer,
Be.
like something mud, right? Like I was gonna say dreamed, which is dreamt. But you know, like all sorts of those ones. This one, okay, so this one needs an M, I said, and it also needs an E, which can't be there. Also can't be there. Could be there, but that is OE. Probably not. So it might actually be there.
Oh, the second row might be lemon.
Second row might be lemon. I mean, it very well might be. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. There. N. I mean, need is a word, but, sneed, gneed. Kneed. Sneed? Oh, right, I was gonna actually suggest at one point, I forgot somehow to suggest it, that this might be tempo.
Oh. Yeah.
It like, for some reason, it had briefly, I was like, oh, this could be tempo. And then somehow, I was too much thinking about other stuff before actually suggesting it. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so central column, if the M is in that spot, and spree is also correct, then U has to be in the first spot there.
Right. I don't love that.
I mean, it could be stunned, but
yeah, I mean,
well, it doesn't work for...
That was not the one that worried me.
Yeah.
It's the row. I guess Umbra. Does that work? Like, umbril means shaded, and umbra is definitely like a Latin word for shadow, right? But like,
I've seen it written in English, so ombre is, I think, a thing.
Oh, wait, but you said you wanted to make this one also an R?
Yeah.
Spanish. I always, for some reason, assumed there might be an H there. Horror and need. The problem is the need one.
A need.
Need with a K. Yeah, and it's stuck then.
Yeah. Yeah, because we also need a C.
I mean, core is one of those words, right? Like, it's like, what the fuck?
What is core?
I mean, a core, I know, but like,
core.
Like, is it more core?
A device for coring apples. As in cutting the core out of fruit in general.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. So took me a second there to hit the unmute button. Yes, a chorus things. Okay, so we had stock, lemon, ombre, spree, chord, slosh, tempo, umbra, horror, and okay, those words were a bit odd, but I think ombre just means dude, right? Define Ombre. Ombre with an accent on the end, yeah. What? Having colors or tones that shade into each other? Oh, wait, was I? Actually... Yeah, because the one I was thinking of, I think, is... Yeah. Informal term for youth or man is spelled with an H. I thought so, right? Because it's probably related to French homme, meaning man. So that's why I was confused about ombre without an H. Because that's a completely different thing. It has something to do with colors.
Yep.
So that's why that was weird for me. But yeah, so ombre, that one I didn't know. Corer, I didn't specifically know, but I knew core, and it's not the same root word, so it's obviously very guessable still, even if it's a bit of an odd word.
Yeah.
Need was not very intuitive, but it makes sense. I think the ombre axis kind of made it a lot more difficult, combined with corer being a weird word. And so even as we were like literally 1 or 2 letters shy of solving this, I mean, even when we had all the letters, I was still like not entirely certain about some of those guesses. Where it's like, this feels complete and everything feels vaguely possible, but like, what?
Yeah.
And yes, I was right about the 2 M's. As in the sorry, let me do this in the subtract. There are 2 M's here, rather than 1 M here with MRA, which I said sounded a bit odd.
Yep.
And it does still sound odd to me, so that's why that wasn't correct, hopefully. Maybe, I don't know. Good questions to ask. What tips or tricks have you picked up from your job/jobs? Next, right?
I guess you can do like a lot with the browser dev tools.
That is true, but I've only privately played around with those. I don't think I mean I don't have an answer to that one because I never had a proper job in that sense. What outdoor activity haven't you tried but would like to?
I would like to try skiing and snowboarding.
I have skied, and I personally wasn't the biggest fan, but I guess I can at least.
I imagine I wouldn't be either, but I would like to try it.
I had a similar thought, which was skateboarding, but there. First of all, the question is, have I ever tried? Right, because I've been around skateboards, I've been on skateboards before.
Yeah.
It's just, that's about the extent of it. And I've never been on a skateboard on, like, a surface that was, like, actually conducive to skateboarding. Because it's usually, like, those, like, stone plates that are, like, not smooth, but, like, they have, like, little bumps in them. It's, like, you could barely move on those. And I did try going down the street at one point on a skateboard, but not, like, the street, but the sidewalk. And it's, like, also, like, stones, and it's, like, no. So skateboarding, kind of, maybe. But again, it's borderline A on whether I have tried it, and B, I don't know how enjoyable it would be, but it seems like a cool thing. Outdoor activity. I mean, I guess on similar notes, like various like surfing variants, right? Like actually regular surfboard, but also what I also have really interesting is when they get pulled by like a jet ski or something.
Oh yeah, by a boat, yeah.
Or by a small boat or something. Like that sort of stuff also seems really cool.
Personally, not a big fan of that, but I can see that one would want to try that out.
The one thing that I also find vaguely borderline that I am in theory kind of interested in, but I don't really see myself in practice doing, is skydiving.
Ooh.
It is worth noting that I'm afraid of heights. So that's probably going to be a no for me. But in theory, I always thought it was a cool thing, right, skydiving. So, but I can't bring myself to actually do it, is the problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What songs hit you with a wave?
I mean, I would.
Sorry.
I would also like to try to fly with a paraplane. That seems kind of fun.
Okay, I got from that para, which I believe is Greek or Latin, meaning like, and plane being presumably an airplane. I don't know what exactly your paraplane is, though.
Like the most basic kind of plane you can have. It's like a parachute and a big propeller behind you that propels you. Yep. And you fly with that.
Okay, yeah. Obviously, the sort of extension of the skydiving thing that is also really cool, but I would even less be thinking about doing like stuff like base jumping, where like they'll have like a squirrel suit and like just jump off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And yet looks really cool.
Dude.
That is even scarier than just like boring parachuting.
Oh
right?
yes.
Parachuting is just like you go down and eventually you pull the parachute and you slow, right? Like this.
Yep.
I know people do cooler things with parachuting, but at its most basic, it really ain't that complicated. Right? But if you have like a squirrel suit, you have to make sure that you actually still get enough lift based on the position, and also you can't go too close to whatever you're jumping off of, and it's a bit more of a thing.
God, that's scary.
But it's a cool thing, right? Like, it's not that I want to try it, but I also, we done?
I mean, it's scary even watching that stuff for me.
Yes. Oh, actually, you know what is the thing that I might want to genuinely try out, that I hadn't occurred? I love how I tried moving on to the other question twice now, and now I'm the one going, parkour, free running. Like that sort of, I think it's technically slightly different, but those two things, but it's basically the same thing. But yeah, no, that sort of stuff is really cool as well. And that I'm genuinely interested in to some degree, but I've also never been interested enough to like try to find if there's like a place where you can like practice it or whatever. I mean, in theory, you can practice it anywhere, but obviously having an actual instructor teaching you the basics is probably useful.
Oh yeah. Also, being afraid of height.
Not really.
Does not really.
Because you don't have to do it up on tall buildings, right? A lot of people do it like jumping from building to building and stuff like that.
True.
But the actual moves are no more easy or difficult based on the height that you're doing them at. Just in terms of practical terms, it's just more risky if you do it up high. But I've seen a lot of cool stuff where people are just like doing it like in like public squares where there's like a lot of staircases and stuff like that. It's just like staircases and railing, stuff like that. And I've seen people do very cool stuff, like mostly very near ground. And it's like, that's still cool. Right? Like,
I guess, yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily need to do it at height. So yeah, no, I do. That is generally something that I would want to try out. That is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Also, another thing that comes to mind is a bit less exciting, bouldering. Bouldering.
What exactly is that?
Bouldering is basically climbing on like fairly low walls, so it's climbing without climbing on like climbing walls basically, but without a harness. So I've climbed on a climbing wall with a harness before, which I didn't particularly like. The climbing itself was cool, but I just don't like the harness, right? That's like one of those things.
I see.
Also, weirdly enough, my fear of heights is worse when I'm harnessed. Not that the climbing walls are that high, it's not really as much of a problem. I'm more aware of it, I think, of the height when I'm like, but it's like, oh, there's a safety harness and stuff. I was like, I guess that makes it more real. I mean, if I was like very high up, it probably doesn't matter either way that much, but it's weird. Anyways, but yeah, bouldering it's not as high usually, and thereby you don't need any like harnesses. They usually just, I think they have some like light mats at the bottom, so like if you fall, it's not that bad. But it's basically just climbing on a climbing wall. I think there are like technically slightly different rules for like mount climbing, like actual like wall climbing versus bouldering. Bouldering, I think you have to touch every hold once, I think. And that is like part of that color course. So it's a little bit different from like just climbing up a wall, but it's still fairly similar technique-wise and stuff. So, but that one I always thought was interesting.
I see.
I mean, I knew a guy who did it at college, so like I probably could have done that at some point, but it's also one of those things where I'm not in a great shape just physically. So a lot of that stuff, like the parkour and the bouldering, like would be a lot better if I actually like was a bit skinnier and maybe a bit more muscular. Of course, if you do it, you will also get in an appropriate shape at some point. But that's the other thing that makes it a bit harder for me to start those sort of things, because it's always like you have to. The first part is gonna suck when you get in. First of all, you're gonna be bad at it right at the beginning. That's the first thing. And second thing is, I'm also not in great shape in the beginning, so like the beginning part is going to be hard. Which also makes it less interesting.
Gonna be real hard, yeah.
What songs hit you with a wave of nostalgia every time you hear them?
Ooh, tough question. I don't generally listen to that many songs.
The answer for me is probably none, for the very simple reason that usually only happens like the first and second time, right? If I haven't heard a song for a couple of years, and then I hear it again, especially like the ones from at this point probably like 15 years ago or whatever, those ones, or not necessarily the ones that came out then, but the ones that were playing in my household a lot then, are the ones where it's like, if I hear them again, I'll get nostalgic for them. But then if I listen to them more often, that wears off again, because now it's just a normal song again. So that is specifically the like sort of rediscovering like a well-liked song. It's like specifically what triggers the wave of nostalgia for me. And again, sometimes that works once or twice. You rediscover it, you don't add it to any playlist or anything, and then like a couple of weeks later you hear it again and it works again. But like as soon as you hear it, like like once a week, once a month or whatever, like it's just it stops working. So there's no individual song that like keeps hitting me with nostalgia every time, right? Like that just doesn't work.
Yeah. That is a similar experience to what I have. And yeah, I do fully agree with your statement.
What's the worst backhanded compliment you could give someone?
What does that mean?
Well, it's basically an insult disguised as a compliment.
Something that sounds like a compliment. I see.
Basically, yeah, it sounds like a compliment, but it's actually more of an insult, or at the very least, I guess the opposite of a compliment, which might not necessarily, strictly speaking, be. Anyways, that sort of thing. I guess it's just usually whenever you do like the all things considered kind of things, where it's like, well, actually, you're kind of good at this, considering. It's like just that implication where it's like, considering that you're such an idiot, you're very good at this sort of thing. Obviously, you wouldn't say the idiot part, but like that sort of whenever you can imply that, where it's like, you're very good for someone like you, or like something like that. Whenever you do that one, it's always where it's like, sounds like a compliment, but because of the like clarification, it's usually like much more of an insult.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe if it's like you're good at this for a beginner, maybe that's less so. But I think often
I wouldn't say that's a.
That's what I would say, right? Like that's maybe an exception where you can do that and it's fine. But like, I feel like the sort of stereotypical thing, and immediately my mind goes to is the whole like for a woman kind of thing, where it's like, oh, you're good at this for a woman, right? Where it's like, because of like the old stereotypes where like women are bad at math and stuff like that, or like science stuff. I mean, those stereotypes are going away for the most part, or are definitely lessening, which is good. So thereby also it becomes less effective as a backhanded compliment, and also kind of low. But that's kind of the idea of backhanded compliments. They're not nice. So
yeah.
But whenever you can like, I feel like whenever you can like say something that is like literally actually a compliment, but then like couch it with a like considering, or like even just sometimes you can just even imply it without actually like saying anything, but that's kind of rare, where it's like, you're actually doing really well. It's like, For someone with your background, it's like, okay, what does that mean? What is wrong with that background? Right? It's like,
Yep.
I don't know if it's the worst, but it's probably like sort of the easiest, consistent way you could do that. Oh, or the also similar where it's like the whole "you're not that fat." That's also always a good one. There's a German comedian who has like a whole bit about this where it's like, the worst thing you can tell a fat person is you're not that fat. Like, you're saying, yeah, I know you're fat, but you're not that fat. It's like that sort of thing as well, where it's like, it's like, you're not that bad.
Yep.
Where it's like, it sounds almost more like you're consoling them than complimenting, but it's sort of, it's in the most literal sense saying something positive, but also like the implication is there that you're still doing bad.
Yep. Yeah, that is funny. Also, yeah. I couldn't give you one right now. Like, I have to be in a situation where something happens that I would react to.
Yeah, that's a problem, right? Also, I don't really do that sort of stuff too much, and when I do it, it's oftentimes even not even on purpose, right? Like sometimes I do have that where it's like well, it's not that bad, right? When it's like, oof.
Yep.
I can be a bit of an asshole, but I usually don't try to be, is the thing. So, what's the most interesting documentary you've ever watched?
Ooh, that is a very tough question because
I
watched a lot of documentaries, but none in the last 5 years.
It's not that long for me, but
all from way back when.
I guess, yeah, I used to sometimes watch stuff on History Channel, which a lot of those are very dubious, actually. Well, it's not actually literally History Channel,
yeah.
but the German equivalent is. But it goes, actually, I think it was N24 or NTV or something like that, but those sort of history documentaries that for some reason 80% of them are about Nazis. Hitler's secret plans for an underground Autobahn, or I think most of the ones that I've seen were not necessarily blatantly fake, but they were often as very exaggerated or selectively sourced and stuff like that. But more recently, I have, the problem is I've seen quite a lot of documentaries, semi-recently, right? So 2 or 3 years ago, when I was watching a lot of documentaries, when I was learning French, I was watching a lot of the Arte documentaries. So Arte is a French/German TV channel, and they also have a YouTube channel where they also release a bunch of documentaries, just for anyone to watch, in French. And then I think it's a separate channel for German, but the point is, I was watching a lot of their French documentaries. And I think I watched a couple from other places as well that happened to be suggested, but I was watching a lot of documentaries. I think they're actually very good for language learning because, as I said before, because they try to explain something to you, so they want to be understood, which usually helps making the input more comprehensible, hence comprehensible input. So I watched quite a few documentaries around that time. Now trying to remember, A, what all of those were about, and then B, which one was the most interesting, is obviously where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
I watched one about nuclear fusion that was pretty interesting, but so it was one of those things where I was hey, here's a nuclear fusion facility that is making some progress. But also not enough progress to where it's net positive, right? So it's technically,
I guess one of the documentaries I watched recently was about AlphaGo, the making of it, released directly from Open. Yeah, it is OpenAI, right? Yeah.
I don't know actually.
Wait. Oh. DeepMind. No. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that one. That was pretty cool. Would recommend.
Also, the other thing is, was a documentary, right? Where it's that like because a lot of sort of the like there are a lot of YouTubers that also make like documentary style content. Some of them are like from this video essays, some of them are like sort of explainers, but pretty much anything about real engineering, for example, is like very interesting, and it's like sort of documentary style, I would say, because it's like very heavy on like the explaining sort of things. They're a bit short for documentary standards, I guess, but pretty much anything by that channel. Again, a lot of the art documentaries are pretty good. None that send out all that much particular, and I think they had a series about dictators on there as well, which was kind of interesting, but also probably not the most interesting. Again, right, the one about ITER was kind of interesting. I think it was also art. I'm not 100% sure. I guess generally, like most of the like sort of science and engineering type ones are probably the most interesting to me. Although sometimes ones about people are also interesting, but I think it's just like the science and engineering stuff is like the most interesting in some ways. Let's do one more and then move on to the songs of the week. Because the next question is, what's the last song you sang along to?
I have no clue.
I think mine was...
I don't sing along to songs.
I do. Occasionally. I think it might have been my song of the week when I was setting that up. Or when I was like cutting that, so maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that might have been the case. So, you know, which brings us to our songs of the week.
Hey!
When I saw the question, I was like, this is a smooth, like, thing to listen to songs of the week, and then I completely botched it. Sergej, what is your song of the week?
It's fine. My song of the week is Ride of the Valkyries by Brothers of Metal.
When you said Ride of the Valkyries, I was thinking you were gonna go Wagner, but Richard Wagner, but okay. I guess I'm not the biggest fan of the vocal style in this one. It's not bad. Maybe this is better when I like listen to the entire song, but it feels kind of. It feels almost like with the instrumentals and the subject matter, like there needs to be more energy in it, almost. But again, it's like the impression I got from the small segment. So
yeah.
Wait, is the Wagner one actually called Ride of the Valkyries or is Flight of the Valkyries? I always forget that for some reason. What the exact title is. Let me go to a search engine. And then go Richard Wagner.
Ride of the Valkyries.
Ride of the Valkyries. Yeah, I thought it was that. So yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like that's what I thought when you said Ride of the Valkyries. You know? I actually don't even mind that one. I'm not a big fan of classical music, but I think it's one of the better ones. But I digress. Do you have anything you want to say about the Ride of the Valkyries that was your song of the week?
No, not really, no.
In that case, I guess that brings us to my song of the week, which is Lady in Black by Uriah Heep.
She came to me one morning, one lonely Sunday morning, her long hair flowing in the midwinter wind. I know not how she found me, for in darkness I was walking, and destruction lay around me from a fight I could not win.
So, I didn't include the chorus song because they just go and so I wanted actual text in there, and this is like exactly the first verse. Like, it would have just gone into the chorus, but it's already like 22 seconds, so I didn't want to push it. But yeah, I do quite like the song, and I'm probably have had it as a song of the week before, but the before having actual insert clips type era, and I was reminded of it, and I was like, damn. Did you just drop from the call?
Oh. Hello?
Hi! So let me try and fix that. There we go. Fix that. So yeah, Lady in Black, right? It's one of those that I occasionally do hear it because it's on my playlist, but when I was reminded of it, like, this was something I was like, yeah, that's one of the really good ones from back in the day. This one,
oh yeah,
stands out, right? Because sometimes you have songs that you just you like it well enough, and sometimes there are ones where it's like, oh yeah, no, this one was actually a cool song, right? This is probably one of the ones that comes closer to that whole nostalgia thing, right? I've heard it enough recently, so that's not quite there, but it still probably comes fairly close, unlike some of the other ones that I've heard either so much or I just don't like enough to where. So yeah, that is that.
Yep.
If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed this particular video, give it a like. If you want to talk to us, leave a comment or join the Discord server. Links in the description below. Sergej.
That's it.
That's it.